Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Trading Floor podcast. My name is Joel. I'm here with Tom.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone. So, yeah, we're turning this into a podcast now. We got some feedback from you guys, and you said it would be good to have some sort of visuals, and we thought it'd be great to turn this into a podcast. You guys can just relax. You can watch this on your screen, or if you've got something to do, just turn off your screen or put your phone in your pocket and just enjoy and listen. But if you do want to watch it, there'll be visuals. We've got our webcams here, we've got the article to the side. But yeah, we won't waste any more time. Tom, what's the first article we're looking at today?
The first one today is all about AI, and Hosier believes there could potentially be strikes amongst the industry of artists over the AI threat to music. I think it's a lot more potentially widespread than one particular artist's opinions individually. However, obviously this is the artist that is fairly well known for some of their songs, so you may listen to their music. That's not really the key point, but they believe that there is a potential threat over AI posing to their industry, being able to mimic voices, potentially being able to create, softwares and programs that may hinder, things like music producers if AI could potentially do it better, more efficiently and things like that. So it's definitely an interesting topic and a lot of financial aspects and external influences that could come into play to do with this as well. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, as this article says, in April, that was one of the first times we saw the use of AI in songs. We saw Drake and we saw The Weeknd. We saw how people it was almost unrecognizable in every single way. Of course, if you were told this song is made by AI, you could probably pick up on it. You could probably hear some weird twangs and some weird things that Drake might pronounce something and you're like, that's a bit robotic. But generally, if you were to put that on the radio and just play it, majority of people would just have that on and not know it's AI. So, and that was in April. We all know how fast AI is developing recently. And I think AI will change the music industry a lot. I think while I don't think we'll have entire artists replaced by AI, I think it's entirely possible that some companies may create a whole brand by having an artist and AI. So AI artist, and push that, and they could make a shit ton of money out of that. So it'll be interesting to see how they use AI as a tool as well, because not only would they see how they can capitalize on AI by creating a whole new artist who isn't artificial intelligence, but they will use AI as tools for the creation of music. It may be that there's some sort of tool where they can just type into the computer and say, create a drum beat and make it go like this, and there's a microphone, you can just do a little beatbox into it and it can convert it into a whole drum beat. The possibilities of AI in music is endless. Much like with cinema and movies, AI in music is almost endless. And I think Hosier, he has a good point in this is something that we need to be careful with, something that can't be abused, and it does spark that debate of what is right. Is it what is right? Whose property belongs to who? Can you use someone's voice? What happens when someone dies? Can you use their voice in the future? It's a whole mess. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it, Tom.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting the fact that obviously you have a lot of different aspects and areas you could go to discuss it. You obviously have the financial aspect for the artist and the record labels. I think his main point is that if you use AI to create songs, it's not based on any individual, it's not based on any human experiences. So, people write songs based on their feelings, their thoughts, and those sorts of things, and those will likely be the best types of songs. If you just ask an AI to say, write a song about, I don't know, the weather or something, it's not going to be relatable to anyone unless it can get that advanced. I saw a video on my YouTube recommended earlier, and it was 6 months ago, and it was this guy talking about ChatGPT that had just come out, or they just realized about it or something, and that was 6 months ago. If you say now, most people probably have heard of OpenAI or ChatGPT or AI in some degree. If you said it back then, people said, have you used it? They probably had no idea. So like you said, going back to April, that was a fairly long time ago. The issue with that was obviously due to copyright law and who owned the rights to it. Yeah, if people like Google and Universal Music and other record labels are in talks to, I guess, license out their artists and their music to be used with AI, then other companies will be able to pay, I guess, license fees to use other artists' voice and melodies to be then used to generate with AI. So you could potentially have an
Yeah.
artist featuring in a track that is nothing to do with them. They've never even sung it. They potentially have no relevance to it at all, yet they're in it just because they've been licensed out. Like,
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
it's similar to the record label licensing them out or potentially having a deal with them where they say, okay, well, they're going to join your song and feature in it or things like that. But that's a bit different because they'll actually be involved in the process of it. They won't just have their voice on it. I guess I think there's I don't know whether it's already been done because I haven't looked into this, but I think there will be an AI based record label that comes out where people create their own AI voices and it potentially takes over in some way and people won't realize it's AI, whether or not they'll use existing famous artists or whether they'll create their own AI artists that no one's ever heard of because they're not real people. Like, that'd be pretty crazy. I think, obviously, you're never going to take away from live performances, though. I think the most notable one is probably the Taylor Swift concert. I mean, the tickets and
Yeah.
things like that are insane, right? You're never going to beat that with AI. I think, actually, to be fair, a good example is that ABBA Voyage, like with the digitally generated performers and music and things. I guess that sort of proves that you could potentially use AI to take over a concert niche by using AI. Like you could make, I guess, make people and make songs that aren't actually real, and it people will still enjoy the concert just because it's the same thing as it could be. But I think if you know
Yeah.
your music, you would at the moment you can still tell it's AI generated just because it's not good enough. Like it sounds very like auto tuned and you would know it's not real. But if you didn't care that much and it was just a song you're listening to on the radio, that like are you going to be that bothered? I think the key problem for if it was for anyone, it's obviously the artist, right? Because if they're losing out potential deals, potentially being discovered to AI, or they could potentially fall into a trap where they're early on in their career, they think, okay, well, this is great, I'll license my voice to AI. Then they suddenly blow up and they don't really take a lot of the credit for it because then anyone could use it. But I think it depends on specific deals and how it plays out.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have a controversial opinion when it comes to AI. I know a lot of people say that AI won't be able to recreate the human emotion and the same feel. I think it will be able to. I have a feeling that give it 10, 15 years and tell AI to create a music video or a song or a movie. I don't think people will be able to tell the difference between what's created by an AI and what's created by a human. I think that while yes, there is more emotion definitely put into songs and movies at any point in time, whether that's AI in 100 years time or AI now. I think AI is very good, could be very good at simulating that. If you could teach an AI to have a backstory, to believe it's had tragedy in its life and it's had positive things in its life in quotations. I think you could recreate that human, not necessarily human, but that kind of emotion that we experience when we view media. I honestly do think that's a possibility with AI. So I would say give it 10, 15 years and see how it is. I know not a lot of people agree with me because I know some people say, oh, I don't want to watch a movie by AI because it just doesn't have that same feeling. Right now, definitely, yes. It's very hollow, it's very soulless. But as AI progresses, I don't see any reason why we can't train AIs to act more emotional. And then I guess into the whole thing of is it conscious or whatnot. But just putting that aside, I do think it's possible to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I think I completely get what you're saying, but I think the point he's trying to make is the fact that it's more to do with the principles of it. Whereas I think you're right. I think AI will eventually be able to mimic experiences and emotions and be able to portray something that would potentially sound like it's created by someone real. But I don't think I think he's trying to say that it will never be the same because by
Yeah,
principle and by definition, it's not. made by a human. It's not based on any real feelings. It's all been made up. So I think that's what he's trying to say. I don't think anyone could potentially disagree that AI could become that advanced that it could potentially do it. But I think it's whether or
Yeah.
not it's right. But then at the same time, would people really care? Like, if it's not based on someone's experiences, but it gives the listener and people who enjoy the music the same relatability that any other song would, does it really matter? Because if people who I get the people who are listening to it are the people that matter in a way. I
The
think the
masses
difference
won't
would
care.
be.
I don't think the masses
I
will
think
care,
that
but I do think there'll be a small group of people who are vocal about AI not having a place in this world.
I don't think it would be as successful as a real person though, because there's no one behind the brand. Like
Yeah.
if you wanted to watch someone at live who you listen to all these AI songs for, like if you listen to them on the songs on the like on Apple Music or something, you would have no idea whether that was a real person singing it or not. If if the music was the exact same, right? Like if you had one song by Ed Sheeran on your Apple Music and say it was a completely AI generated and sound exactly like normal Ed Sheeran does, you wouldn't know the difference, right? But if you went to watch them in concert and it was on a screen versus an actual person, you would know the difference, whether or not it was an actual person. So I think I guess from a fame perspective, if you suddenly have this massive blow up on socials of these songs and things that go crazy, and there's no actual person behind it, from the record label's perspective, what do they do, right? Unless they designed a AI generated person to be the face of the song and the brand of the songs, what's the point to it?
Yeah, yeah. I think as well with people who are currently in the industry, they have their place. You know, they're vocal. They're saying we won't be replaced by AI, and that's completely fair. But when you look at people who really want to get into the industry, who want a job like this, they might settle for less because they don't have anything to fight for. They want to enter the industry. So, for example, any artist right now, like Ed Sheeran, for example, he'll make a stand. He'll say, I'm not using AI. I will never use AI. I don't want AI to clone me at all. But someone who wants to get into the industry might be like, well, this is my only chance. If this is what the studio's offering me, if the studio's offering me, or the record label is offering me, let us take your voice and we'll make you a star. They want to be in that badly, and they might, just out of desperation of wanting to be in the industry, sign that contract and sign their voice away. So the current people, I think, are fine with AI. I think they can fight for themselves to not be replaced by AI, but it's also probably up to them to fight for the next level of people who want to get in. Because if they don't, then the studios, the record labels most likely will be able to create a contract like this and just kind of say to people who have great voices, hey, let us get a couple recordings of you, we'll AI you, we'll do this and that. And then they think, wow, that's amazing, I'm going to be a star. And they are, but now they own the rights to all your voice and they could ditch you whenever they want. They have, I don't know, these are theoretical contracts. There might be laws to protect artists, saying, artists must have like at least 90% of their work done by themselves, anything like that. But it is a possibility right now in the current state of things that a record label could go to a young developing artist who really wants to be in the industry and say, listen, we'll sign this contract, we'll make you a star. But they're actually signing away their rights for the future. Because Taylor Swift had that whole problem, didn't she?
I think a lot of people have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know they take away a huge amount of profit. I think when I was looking into it, and I need to fact check this, so don't take this as gospel, but I think on average the artist would only receive anywhere from like 5 to 15% of earnings. And while that is a lot of money, think about how much a single stream on Spotify probably pays the artist. I think when I researched it, it was like maybe 0. I think Apple Music paid the best. I think Apple Music was close to a cent per stream, or cent per 1,000 streams. I can't remember, but Apple Music was one of the highest. But Spotify was lower, and So when all of that gets added up together, they're making, they're making a good amount. But after the commission is taken away by the studio, they're actually not left with that much. So I can understand the defense against not wanting AI to replace them, and I do think it's a good stance to take. But this is a technology that doesn't have any restrictions yet, doesn't have any regulations behind it, and that's what we got to see. How all these regulations control works like these.
Yeah, I think the key point about the regulations though is whether it's copyright law, right? And the economic aspect of that. Because I think, the music industry is very hard from a copyright perspective. You're either copying someone or you're not, but at the same time, everything's pretty much already been done. There's only so many chords, there's only so many notes that you can come up with. I think the Ed Sheeran trial is a good example of that. He was able to prove, whether you obviously believe with the decision or not, that he was able to prove that he didn't copy any music and it was his own, and that's fair enough. I think that would probably be the hardest thing to prove with AI though. If you used AI to, I guess, potentially clone someone else's song and clone their melodies and their chords from a song, but then use AI to slightly change it, that you could then prove that it wasn't copied from anywhere. I guess that's similar to what people could potentially do now if they wanted to somehow get away with it. But I think AI potentially has a higher chance of doing that successfully by, you could develop the AI so it listens to all these different songs, and then you use trending songs or trends within songs to make the next big hit based on other people's music, which if you did yourself would take hours, and potentially it would take so long that it's not possible for someone to reasonably do it. I think the hardest thing to get away with would be if you were to directly clone people's voices though. If you like it says, if you took Drake's voice, if you took The Weeknd's voice, if you took Taylor Swift's voice, if you don't have the rights to their voice, you're obviously breaking copyright law and you're obviously going to get your songs removed. But if you did it from someone who potentially wasn't as well known, could you potentially get away with it? Not that you obviously should be able to, but if they, as individuals, didn't have, the finances to back up things like lawyers to defend themselves from, say, a dodgy record label that, suddenly came out of nowhere to use AI to steal people's songs. If they didn't know the person, they could think, well, we've never heard him before. This is a completely AI-generated person. And then the person has to try and back themselves, but they physically can't go against the company. I think that's where the problem would come, is whether or not copyright... First of all, whether or not you could prove whether it was taken by AI and AI'd to not sound like someone else. Or if you don't give the rights to someone, what can they prove whether it's them or not, unless they're obviously a big artist. But then, again, at the same time, if you were to give someone your rights, it's very hard based on your contracts. You could give your rights to someone, like normal record labels do. They'll take the rights for a certain period of time for potentially certain songs. Whereas if you give them your voice in perpetuity, they can basically do whatever they want with your voice and you have no control or no say over it, which I think is kind of scary for the artist.
Yeah.
But then I guess that also links into, and again, I don't know whether it's 100% true because I haven't read it in detail, but that links to the TikTok TOS update, where they apparently, I mean, this is just not fact checked, but apparently based on their up and coming terms and conditions, they will have the rights to your voice. So, I mean, if there's artists on TikTok and that is true, they could potentially do the same thing and they get nothing from it.
Yeah.
I mean, whether they actually would or not is obviously a different discussion, but if companies can do that, if you are, I don't think this is the case for YouTube, but if you were to upload a YouTube video of your songs, and then YouTube suddenly turned around and said, well, actually, you agreed to these terms and conditions, so we now have the rights to your voice. We can use AI to create our own songs for your voice and upload them on YouTube Music. I doubt YouTube, like I said, that's a hypothetical example, but if that was the case for a company, it'd be pretty damaging.
Yeah. Well, one thing I like to think of is, let's do a theoretical scenario. Let's say I'm very skillful. Let's say I can do a perfect impression of Ed Sheeran. And then let's say I can create, I'm very skillful, I can create nearly very similar chords to what Ed Sheeran would create a song. I can create a song that sounds nearly exactly like a type of Ed Sheeran song, and but none of that voids copyright, at least as far as I know, because that's still my voice. I may be putting a different voice onto it that sounds like Ed Sheeran, but at the end of the day, that's still my voice. My voice is still the one being able to go in that range, and Ed Sheeran doesn't own the right. He owns the rights to his voice, but he doesn't own the rights for his voice sounding like that. People can still mimic his voice. And same with his song styles, you know? He doesn't own the rights to those type of song styles. So my what I'm trying to get at with this is, what's the difference between me, a human, being able to be very skillful and being able to create a song and sound exactly like Ed Sheeran and that being okay, but when it comes to AI, it isn't. Because at the end of the day, AI and humans are both doing nearly the exact same thing. We're taking in information, you know, in this example, I'm taking in what Ed Sheeran sounds like, and then I'm putting out a resemblance of Ed Sheeran. AI takes in information, it's seeing what Ed Sheeran sounds like, and it's putting out a resemblance based on learning, like humans do, based on knowledge of information that it has. So it's almost like, what is the difference? The only difference is one is being controlled by a company. And, you know, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, because I understand that a company shouldn't be able just to grab someone's voice and say that's ours now. This is like a devil's advocate kind of argument. But it is a valid point to make of what counts as copyright infringement, because yeah, I know one of the main things at the start of AI was when it was the very first thing, which was the picture generated AI, and people were saying, you know, you can't use Picasso in your AI because, you know, his work is copyrighted and all that stuff. But if I was to go away and I was to, using my knowledge of Picasso, draw a image very similar to his work, that doesn't void AI. That doesn't void copyright. My mistake, sorry. Because all I've done is taken inspiration, and inspiration doesn't void copyright. So it then comes down to that point of, what's the difference between, there's that blurred line of what's the difference between a style and actually owning what Ed Sheeran is. What is Ed Sheeran's brand? Because Ed Sheeran's brand is most likely has some sort of protections around it. But what counts as his brand? Is it his type of music? So does that mean you can't make a music that's like his? It's a whole mess. But what are your thoughts on that, Tom? Because I think that's an interesting argument.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think it potentially depends on how you do it and the intention of it, right? Like if you're yourself just singing and you happen to sound like someone. I think the best example was, I can't remember what country it was on. I think it was on like The Voice, like Denmark or something. The guy sounded exactly like Michael Jackson. He sung one of his songs and the 4 judges went absolutely crazy because he sounded like the exact original version. Like if you were just listening to the two, like, and you weren't thinking about it enough, like you didn't know it was someone else, you would have thought it was the same person. So I think in that, I mean, they obviously, he got like 4 turns on his chair or whatever because he was on The Voice and things like that. But I think it shows that people can have the same voice and not do it intentionally. I mean, whether or not he's potentially made himself sound slightly more like it so he would do better, I mean, there's obviously someone could argue that. But I think it just shows that people sound the same, and whether their intention is sound the same or not, it's completely different. But I think the difference in the example from the one in here is the fact that they used AI to clone people's voices. There's a difference between doing an impression and directly cloning someone's voice. Like you could do an impression. Again, I think if you potentially did an impression and claimed that it was the artist, obviously you can't do that because you don't own the rights to their name or their brand or anything like that. If you just sound slightly like them and said it was your own name and your own song, I don't know specific copyright law, you could potentially slightly get away with that unless the artist obviously decided to pursue any actions against you. I think the key difference is whether or not you're using AI to generate unique voices that sound similar to someone in the charts, or whether you're using AI to clone someone's voice, sound exactly the same, and copy their songs. Like, you can't clone a voice yourself. You could sound similar, but it probably wouldn't be exactly the same. Whereas if you're taking someone's voice and claiming that it's them, then obviously you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there was that thing with Winnie the Pooh, and if you guys don't know, Winnie the Pooh's was it like copyright recently expired? I believe it was like a year or two ago, because the way it works is there's like a certain amount of time that it's valid for before it expires, and that time expired. So the original copy of Winnie the Pooh is now public domain. You at home can do whatever you want and make money with Winnie the Pooh, but only based on that original book. Anything that came later in later books is still under copyright. But those earlier books, the very first book is completely free to use. So that's where, if you guys saw in cinema, there was that Winnie the Pooh horror movie, and they got away with that because yeah, because copyright just it expired. And but the other thing is trademarking, I believe, as far as I know, doesn't expire at all. And so the name Winnie the Pooh,
I think it does actually, and I can give
it
you an
does.
example of that in a minute. But carry on.
Yeah, so at least at the moment, the name Winnie the Pooh isn't expired, so they couldn't name it that. But the name Winnie dash the dash Pooh isn't. It is okay to use. So they named their movie Winnie dash the dash Pooh, and managed to make a horror movie Winnie the Pooh. So Tom, what's your example of the trademark expiring?
So I actually saw this on a YouTube video, and hang on, I'm gonna have to find the guy's name because it wouldn't be fair otherwise. But he created a product based on, I think the guy, you probably heard of him, or people watching this have probably heard of it. His name's Alan Pan. He creates like superhero products or like make it in real life type things, a bit like Hacksmith and Jay Laser, that sort of content, right? And he made a product. He made a product which gave snakes legs. So it was like a tube with like 4 legs, and they put a snake in it, and then the snake could move, and it would make the legs move, right? But
Yeah.
CNN uploaded a video, and they didn't give him any credit or something. They just uploaded the video. They took his video, uploaded it straight on their site, and uploaded the video. So he made a follow-up, like, comeback video type thing, which was like, CNN stole my video, where he basically went on like a rant. And as a part of that, CNN, or the company associated with CNN, I don't know the specifics, it's all in his video if you care about it that much, but basically Mythbusters, the TV show, their trademark to the name Mythbusters, I believe, expired. So he bought the trademark to Mythbusters, right? Which is perfectly legit to do. It came available. He purchased it. And then he made T-shirts with Mythbusters. No, sorry, this is the difference. There was an availability for a trademark for the Mythbusters for clothing only. It wasn't for the TV show. So he couldn't make a TV show called Mythbusters trademark because that was already taken. But he managed to purchase it for clothing. So he then made T-shirts with like Mythbusters on it, like just like YouTube merch, like nothing crazy. And then they basically sent him like cease and desist letters, basically saying we own the rights to Mythbusters, blah blah blah, and you have to basically burn all the T-shirts. You can't do anything with it. And he actually, I think, just gave in because he didn't want to go down legal proceeding. He spoke to the lawyers and said the fact that, you know, you don't really have a chance winning against like a company like CNN and the companies the size associated with them. But the difference is the fact that it's not as an example of where the trademark necessarily expires, but it's the case where there's a trademark available for something slightly different, like a different industry, but the other company who originally owned the whole trademark are basically able to say, well, actually, even though you technically bought this, we still own everything. And it's like you said, in terms of the Winnie the Pooh thing, obviously that the copyright and stuff ended. But from the trademark, you could actually buy the rights to something, which you have every right to do, and a company could essentially try to sue you because they're obviously that massive conglomerate, and basically force you to give it back because they own the whole rights to something, which I think is potentially what could happen in something like this. You know, if a record label owns the rights to someone's voice, and a voice is used on a track, but the track is also used with an AI voice or someone who's given the rights to AI, but the AI has also taken someone else's voice, they could potentially basically say, well, actually, you can't make this whole video because you've stolen everything. Like, if
Yeah.
I think it's very, like you said, there's very fine lines, and there's probably going to have to be some sort of legislation made in the fact that what can you do, what can you take that's actually right, because otherwise it'll just go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a
I
similar
think there will
problem.
be.
Yeah,
Carry
go
on.
on. No, you go. You go.
I was just gonna say, I think there. I don't know whether there already is. There probably already is. I think there will be very specific lawyers in AI. Like there's different sorts, like employment lawyers and all those sorts of things. I think there will become a role for AI based lawyers and solicitors
Yeah.
who specifically focus on AI. And yeah, there's obviously copyright lawyers at the moment, but I think it will niche down even more where they focus specifically on AI. And
Yeah.
I think that's potentially almost a good thing that it's giving opportunities to potentially new jobs within that sort of industry, whether it's the same people who do it but just diversify themselves slightly more in that
True.
industry. But I think there'll definitely be people with that level of expertise that will be needed for those sorts of things.
Yeah. There was a similar problem with the whole trademarking with Apple. And when they created the Apple TV, they initially wanted iTV, which is trademarked in the UK by the TV channel ITV. So ITV was basically like, I think, I might have been wrong. I might be wrong about this. Again, not fact check, don't say it's gospel. But I think Apple requested if they could use it. And ITV was like, no, go away. They weren't giving up their brand
To be
for
fair,
anything.
I think that's a very stupid decision though. Like if Apple said to ITV, right, we'll give you a royalty of such and such for every Apple TV or
ITV.
lowercase I TV sold, why
Yeah.
would they say no? Like,
I know.
you can tell it's a product as opposed to a service. Surely you would just say, yeah, right. Because the amount of leverage you would have in that negotiation from ITV's perspective, you own the rights to the name. You have,
Yeah.
it probably was still at the time, the biggest company, the biggest tech company coming to you saying, can we do this? Whether Apple would actually pay for the rights is a different thing, or pay royalties or those sorts of things. But if they were able to negotiate a deal where they said, yeah, sure, crack on, you can have the name ITV for the next 5 years for your product. You can't make it for your streaming service. That has to be called Apple TV still, or Apple TV Plus still. Because I mean, imagine if it was ITV Plus and ITVX, like you
Yeah.
would think they were the exact same thing. But if it was just a product, I would, if I was ITV's perspective, I would just say, yeah, let's do a royalty deal. We'll take a
Well,
percentage of the sales of every unit sold.
I think
Banging,
there would
great
be a good
deal.
chance of that as well if they actually did do that. Because at the time, I believe when this was happening, there was no such thing as the Apple Watch or Apple TV or Apple Music. Everything was still under the i brand. So it was still all just iPhone, iPad, iMac, what's the other ones? MacBook Pro. That's not an i one, but nothing had
iPod.
the iPod. Yeah, everything was pretty much just I something. So the Apple branding hadn't been the Apple TV, Apple Watch branding hadn't been created at that point. So it probably would have had like ITV probably would have had a good chance of being able to claim a deal like that, seeing as Apple didn't have an alternative at that time. They were known as the I company. So
I
they
wonder if they
really
would
should.
actually have wanted it though.
Well, who Apple?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It could be ITV was very defensive about it. It could be
I
they
think
did come with a
they
deal
had,
like that.
if they had the iWatch, it would have fit the brand more. But I think when they
Yeah,
decided to call it the Apple Watch or just Series 4 watch or whatever, it's
yeah,
slightly different because they slightly break from that brand. Like, it's not called the iPencil. They could have had that. I think they're
yeah,
moving more towards Apple. Like, it's not called the iVision Pro. Actually, that would be a pretty funny pun as well, to be fair, wouldn't it? But
yeah.
they missed an opportunity there.
That is a good one. Yeah, but yeah, and
I think the other thing people will potentially have to take into consideration is the fact of competition within an industry and how much regulations will allow them to get away with things like that. For example, if there was a record label which somehow, obviously, again, this is a hypothetical situation, somehow had the AI rights to every single artist in the top 100 at the moment or something for the past 5 years, they had the rights to their voice. From a competitive perspective, they would absolutely destroy the market. Because
Yeah,
if they
yeah,
owned everyone's voice, they basically owned every single form of music. Obviously, that would never happen because the companies that owned or had the rights to their voice wouldn't sell it to AI. But if they were to do that, it's similar to, I can't remember what they were going to call it, but it was in the UK. They were going to combine, I think it was ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, and something else to
is it
become their own
BritBox?
streaming service before that was it, BritBox, yeah.
Yeah,
Before things like Amazon Prime and Netflix were a thing, but the UK government were like no, because there'll be too much concentration within one company. I mean, then
oh,
look what
BritBox
happened.
is something
We could have.
different.
No, I
Brit
think it is the same thing, but it never
Oh, is
became
it?
what they planned it to be.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
They originally planned to combine all the channels to
Oh,
basically have
okay.
the UK's to basically have the world's biggest streaming service with the UK channels, but they basically said they couldn't do it because it would have one company. I can't. It's all to do with economics and business and things. If people are
Yeah,
interested, we can dive deeper. But they basically said no because it's to do with the. Is it called like the competitions and it's the CMA or something like that, the Competitions Markets Authority or whatever it's called. And they were like, no, you can't do that. If they were to do that, it would potentially have been the biggest streaming service in the world. But they
yeah,
never wanted to do it, and now they're pursuing things like ITVX because they're individually owned like streaming services. But I think that would be the problem from a government and politics perspective. Whether or not some company could potentially own the rights to too many people. Because at the moment, obviously, certain record labels own certain people. Whereas if the artist said, crack on, I'm no longer working with a specific record label, anyone can use my voice. I give you the rights to use AI to generate songs using my voice, but I'll take however percent of the streams and things. Whether how that would obviously be calculated would have to be calculated in how it does, but I think upcoming artists would be more willing to do that. Like if you said to someone, "Okay, I've had this massive global hit. I've suddenly blown up." I think a good example would be someone like Olivia Rodrigo. Like for her first song, like Driver's License, after it initially blew up, if she hadn't been signed by someone for that song, but she had just been discovered by, say, a record label agent or something where they were potentially in talks with, do we sign her, do we not? What's the potential here? If they then suddenly said, if she turned around and said, well, actually, I give every single record label the rights to use my voice, to use AI to create new songs. I mean, I highly doubt she would, but you then give me the potential sales, she could have potentially blown up from that way as opposed to what she did. I think obviously that's a very different example because I think people would argue she would have blown up anyway. But if it was
yeah,
someone who was not known at all and they gave the rights to everyone, the more places you are, the more people that hear you, the more chance you have of actually being discovered. So I think from
yeah,
that perspective, smaller artists would be more willing to use AI to grow their audience. But I think from someone like her perspective, she doesn't need that, right? Because if you're already on Disney Plus, you're already sort of well known, you're putting out your own music, you'll get discovered anyway, so you won't need to use AI. So I think from the artist perspective, they won't really want to do it. So, and I don't think
yeah.
striking would help. Like I think going back to the whole point of this article, would striking achieve anything? I don't think so, because artists who are already established won't care for AI. They'll just say no. I think potentially if they got a lot older, they could say, well, if you want, I want my music to, I guess, go beyond me, go for it. You have the rights to use my voice for, say, the next 3 years, whilst I potentially take a break or something. I guess that would be one aspect they could do it, but I don't think any artist would want to use AI based on his argument, where they think that it's not as real.
Yeah, yeah. And I do think a lot of young people who do want to enter the industry would sign a deal that said, you know, we'll give you 5% of all royalties, if you let us have your voice and stuff like that. So it is a big possibility that we will see in the next 10, 15 years, with especially the new people entering the market. Maybe like people like you're saying, Olivia Rodriguez is probably one of the last sets of people to enter pre-AI. And the next lot we're going to see, the next lot of people coming in, we could see coming with different deals, coming in with more AI related deals, saying, you can make as many albums as you want, but we will also make one AI album a year, because that will keep the money printer churning. Because as long as, if you want to take a year off, that's fine. But we're going to use, in your contract, it might say, if you can take as much time off as you want, but if you don't make an album that year, we will create an album with AI. And, that's something that young people who want to get into the industry, maybe not young people, people not in the industry yet, who want to make a name for themselves, need a deal like that, and want a deal like that. And they don't realize the consequences of it until it's 5-10 years down the line, and they want to make this song or that song, they want to do this, they want to do that, and their manager points to their contract and says, no, I can't do that. So yeah, I we talked about this topic for a long time. So Tom, to summarize this topic, and then we'll move on to the next one, final thoughts on the AI topic with music.
I'm inclined to agree with him on the fact that I don't think it will potentially take off in the way that they think it will. I don't think it poses that much of a threat to existing artists in the industry, because I don't think, if something poses a threat, it would displace you within the industry. So I don't think, a sudden AI new artist is going to come out of nowhere and absolutely blow up the charts and become number one every single year, every single charts in a row. I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't think they have anything to worry about. I don't think striking would do anything unless you were in a contract where it stipulated your voice could be used for AI without you knowing. Then that's something that you could say, well, I'm not doing anything else anymore. I think whether people would want that to happen depends on themselves individually and their specific, I guess, financial incentives. Do they want to... Are they done with music? Do they just want to sit back, relax? They've already retired, sort of thing. They can use AI to keep making music based on... I think there's a difference between whether you're cloning someone's voice or whether you wanted to carry your music forward and you could use AI to create new songs. For example, if you worked with an old songwriter who you can no longer work with for whatever reason, and you could potentially use some of their songs without having to. I don't know. I think it depends, but I don't think it poses that much of a threat. However, I think it could be very beneficial to use AI to potentially create new melodies or something which have never been made before, or just making yourself stand out a bit more. But I think whether people want to or not, I think AI could be quite useful from an auto-tune perspective, and those sorts of digital music aspects. If you can use it to sound a lot more real for your own voice, then that could potentially help. But I don't think they need to strike, and I don't think it is that much of a threat, at least not at the moment anyway.
Yeah, I don't think striking will work for a slightly different reason. I don't think it will work because I think the record labels would see him striking and just be like, don't need him, There's 100 other people ready to take your job, ready to create music. And I feel like in the music industry particularly, where it is very fast moving, it is very, someone can just rise to the top of the charts very quickly. I do think it is the record label would see him striking and, maybe play into it for a bit so they don't get like a bad name for themselves. And then just as soon as it's over, just cut ties, because they, may not be able to trust him not to do that again, and they want to progress in AI, which he would disagree with. I'm not taking sides. I'm just talking about theoretical scenarios in this. But in my honest opinion, I do think the music industry is too fast moving and too volatile, and is too much controlled by the record companies, that striking wouldn't work. And if a large amount of these artists would strike, I do think very quickly they would play into it for a bit, and then they would just get the next wave of young people to replace these artists. And they're in contracts as well. So it would be very hard to strike without obviously there's contracts of striking as well, saying you can strike if you don't believe something is fair, but their contracts are still valid and they won't be earning money while striking. But yeah, so I guess we're going to move on to the next topic because we're 45 minutes into the podcast and we're on the first article. Tom doesn't know the times in this, but only I can see the timer, so I kind of just like inform him, and he's like, oh god, we're 40 minutes in. So the next article we're looking at is a bit of a change of topic, but it's an interesting look, is the Blue Beetle movie. I don't know much about the Blue Beetle movie. I don't think Tom knows much about the Blue Beetle movie. But from what we do know, I've seen the trailer for it, I know generally what it's about, but from what we do know, it does seem like another DC failure. Tom, do you have any initial thoughts on this?
I haven't seen it, obviously. Is it even out yet? Did it come out this week?
I think so.
I think it was the 18th. I've seen the trailer on YouTube. It looked pretty cool. I know nothing about the character, but it seems kind of cool. I think it's interesting, right? Because what was the biggest DC movie before this? Was it Black Adam?
Maybe Snyder. Wait, are we talking of all time?
No, most recent.
Most recent, probably Black Adam then, yeah. Or Shazam 2.
Yeah, and Shazam 2's not out yet, is it?
No, yeah, that came out in like February, I think.
Did it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Actually?
Yeah.
To be fair, I actually liked Shazam, the first one. I didn't even know the second one was out yet.
Second one was alright. Again, it's not a masterpiece movie, but it's pretty good.
I remember
movie.
the trailer, but I didn't know when it was coming out.
Yeah, it was an alright
it came
movie.
out in March. I didn't realise that. I'll just wait for it to come on like Sky Go and watch it there. But I think. So then the most recent one. Wait, was it? No, it can't be Black Adam. It has to be Shazam. Yeah, you're right. Because Black Adam's already out on, like, other places and TV and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough hype for this film. Like, I mean, I saw the trailer on YouTube, but other than that, I've seen nothing about it. Like, it's not been on Twitter anywhere. I haven't seen anyone talking about it. I haven't seen anyone really caring about it. Like, if you compare it to Barbie, it was everywhere. People were watching it all over the place. People who you wouldn't expect to watch it potentially were watching it. Like, it's a completely... it's obviously a completely different audience, right? It's targeted at something completely different, but I just don't think there was a lot of hype for it, and I think that shows in the debut. I think it potentially goes against the the cinema trend. Bro, what am I saying? Against the cinema trend that potentially is getting better. I mean, yeah, so it's the third DC film to stumble out the gate after Shazam got 30.1 million in March. The Flash was 55 million in June.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Both of that, obviously, it cost $100 million to produce, which I think was it about average for a movie like that? It's nothing crazy. I just don't think there's a lot of hype for it.
Yeah, I think the marketing is lacking.
I think more people know about Aquaman 2, and who knows what's going to even happen with that movie than they do with these sorts of ones, and these have already come out.
Yeah, I think the marketing is lacking, but what I do respect DC for is taking a risk. You don't see that much nowadays with a lot of movie studios, especially with Disney a lot. They're playing it quite safe recently. They're not doing a lot of new projects. They're kind of just messing with existing IP. Again, not fact checked. I believe it's Paramount. I believe their animation department is only focusing on IP content now. It may not be Paramount, it may be a different company, but one of those companies is only focusing on IP animated content. The other departments are still, doing new stuff, but content that is animated, they're only focusing on creating movies that are previously made. So a lot of companies are playing it very safe. So I do respect DC for picking a superhero that's quite unknown and making a movie on it. Is it financially beneficial? No, it isn't. I don't think this is going to make profit. Did you say the budget for this was 100 million about, Tom?
I don't think it was I think that's what it actually cost.
Yeah, here we go. Blue
And
Beetle cost more
Blue
than
Beetle
100
cost
million.
more than $100 million to produce, and many more millions to produce.
Yeah. So
To
as
promote,
we
sorry.
yeah, as we discussed in one of our other videos, it's usually about when a movie costs anywhere between 100 to up to 200 million, they usually spend close to 100 million in marketing. So you can get, again, that's not for all movies, but just as an estimate, this will have costed them probably close to 200 million total, and I don't think that's going to even break even. But like I said, I do respect DC for going out on a whim and picking a superhero that is quite unknown. And I think, even though I haven't seen the movie yet, I can't judge it yet. I do think they have quite a good cast. I like the main actor. He's in. Have you seen Cobra Kai, Tom?
Probably at some point.
Well, yeah, Cobra Kai. If you guys haven't seen it, it's the Karate Kid remake. I think they've picked a good actor to play him. I think the trailer looks good, but I do think it's lacking in marketing. And it could have been a massive movie if they'd have done the marketing correctly.
Yeah, I don't think, like you said, I don't think it can be argued that it's not a good movie. Again, we haven't seen it, so we can't comment on the actual movie. The trailer looks pretty good, but I just don't think enough people know about the character, and they didn't do enough for people to care about the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was based on, I don't know, like if you compared it to someone like Batman, obviously people are gonna care about it more than someone they've potentially never heard about before. So it's like it
Yeah.
could be the best movie, but if people don't care about it, then they're not really going to be that bothered to watch it. I don't think anyone would ever have expected it to overtake the likes of the Super Mario Bros. Movie and Barbie and things like that to be the biggest release of the year. I don't think they were expecting that, but it, it doesn't seem like they're having very good debuts at the moment.
Yeah, well, look at Iron Man. Iron Man, when that first came out, he was pretty much a nobody. Not a lot of people. When you think of superheroes now, you'll think of Batman, Superman, Spider Man, and if you made people keep thinking, they'll eventually come to Iron Man. Back then, not a lot of people knew Iron Man. He wasn't the biggest superhero. He wasn't one that people would probably name in the top 10. They would go to a lot more different superheroes before Iron Man. And now he would probably be in the top 10 when it comes to people naming a superhero. And I think there's a lot of countless other examples of new superheroes, not new superheroes, but unknown superheroes who have been given movies and have succeeded quite well. I believe Peacemaker, that's the one played by John Cena. I don't think, I'm not in the comic book world much, but I don't think he was a very massive character or a very well-known character, at least in the public sphere. Not a lot of people would have guessed Peacemaker, but it did turn out to be quite a successful show. You can even look at shows that don't have IP related content at all. Look at The Boys. The Boys is all new superheroes, new actors, new powers and people and different names. No related content to any put out superheroes before, and they've managed to create a very successful series, albeit gory and disturbing, but a brilliant series. Have you seen The Boys, Tom?
I don't think so.
Oh god, don't watch The Boys. There's, I think majority of the episodes has like warnings before the episodes saying like nothing actually happened in the filming of this. Jesus Christ, it's a joke. it's
Jeez.
one of it's a brilliant show, but it's like it's awful. Not an awful show, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's like it's awful the things that are in there. But I love it. It's brilliant. But my point with that is it's a brand new IP. Everything in there is brand new, and they've created an insanely good and profitable show. So I don't think the problem is with it not being a character who is known by the public, but I do think it is the way it's been marketed. I do think it is partly due to the current climate. If this was maybe released in 2019 and there wasn't also the competition of Barbie and Oppenheimer, then this would probably perform quite a lot better as just like a summer blockbuster movie. But in the current climate, I do, and how it's been marketed, I do think that it has been let down quite a bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, right? If you were in the position of DC and you were producing movies like this, right, from a business perspective, I mean, obviously we don't know the answers to this because we're not involved in that. What would you do, right, to how would you invest the money? Because if someone said to you, right, if you looked at it from now, back then, you're saying it's costing you $100 million to produce this movie. It's cost you, let's say, 50 to $100 million more to market the movie, and you've made 25.4 million. So you've made about 25% back in the first, what is that, the first week?
Pre-marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you gonna do, right? Because you have to put content out there. You can't
Yeah.
potentially spend less because otherwise then you're putting worse movies out there which potentially do worse. I don't know. Do you think people's focus at the moment is still on streaming services like Disney Plus? Because obviously these movies won't go on there.
I think so. Yes, a lot of people are sticking to Disney Plus, but I think another reason, I'll come back to streaming just to make, I'll just say this first. Another reason these movies are possibly failing with DC is because James Gunn is coming in and completely resetting the universe. So these movies do not matter. In the next year, this universe will end, and no, there's no big final with this universe. It's kind of just ending with the last movie, and that's kind of it. There's no big build up or anything like that. So these movies are, I think a lot of people are just thinking with these movies, oh, you know, nothing, these movies are connected, but it's not going to amount to anything because James Gunn's going to reset it in a year's time anyway. But when it comes to streaming, I do think people are, with the current economy and climate that we're in right now, I do think people are thinking, why would I go to the cinema and spend, you know, some cinemas up to £20 or something like that on I know a lot of other cinemas can do somewhere between £8, but more expensive cinemas, something like £20 to go see a movie that I may not enjoy and can catch on streaming in a couple months' time. And even though these movies may not come to streaming, people have that mindset of, I'll watch it online, I'll watch it later, I'll watch it on streaming. Even though if the movies never come, people aren't going to be sitting there in 1 month's time being like, is it on streaming yet? Is it on streaming? It's 2 months' time. Is it streaming? 3 months' time. Is it on streaming? People don't do that. They just move on and just say when they see it on streaming, they'll eventually go watch it. So streaming has changed has changed the mindsets of people a lot. And I do think that is part of the reason of what has affected these DC movies. But I do think there is multiple factors. I do think there is the problem with James Gunn. Well, James Gunn's not the problem, but you know, maybe James Gunn should have waited until after these movies were released to announce that he's resetting the universe, because that would give people a reason to keep watching. I do think streaming has a problem with it. I do think the economy has a problem with it. And I do think the way they've been marketing and the movie qualities as well, because The Flash is widely known by the audience to be a pretty bad movie. So I do think there's a multitude of problems with why these movies aren't making money.
Yeah. I got two questions. One is to do with this, and one is something completely different, but it's sort of related. The first one is, how well do you think Aquaman 2 will perform based on the results of these movies so far, and obviously all the controversy with that? Do you think it will do worse, or do you think the fact that it's been in the news a lot more for obviously certain different reasons, that it could actually do better?
I think it's going to do better. I think it's going to be one of the highest performers out of all of these movies. But I also don't think it's going to do great. Because I know, is Amber Heard still in it?
I think she's in it. I don't know whether on. I have no idea exactly, but I think some people were trying to get her down to like, was it like 6 minutes, and then someone said she's down to like 30 seconds, or they've potentially cut the whole character completely to like barely feature in it. Yeah. I think she's still in it though, so it's I guess the principle whether or not she's in it or not. If she, I think she's still in it. Yeah. Okay,
because if she is still in it, that is an audience you're going to be isolating. There's a lot of people right now who would just say, I don't like this person, I'm not going to watch the movie. So that is a little bit of the audience you would be isolating. Only a small amount though. Nothing that I don't think would drastically change the movie profits too much. But Aquaman, I do think, because it is quite a successful franchise for what it is, and the previous one was quite well received, if I'm not mistaken, then I do think it will be the highest performer. But I don't think it will be massive. I think my estimation would be anywhere between 100 to 200 million profit. I think it will break even, or just make a little bit of profit. What about you, Tom? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's probably about the same. Like, I think there'll be some people that just don't care whether she's in it or not, and they'll overlook the fact about that, and they'll go watch it anyway if they like the first one, they like the second one. I don't know where I don't think it'll do anything crazy, but like you said, I think it'll do decent. Like, they'll make money out of it, but I don't think it'll go crazy.
Yeah, yeah. What's your second question?
My other question, I don't know if you've seen this or not. The only reason I know about it is because I saw the trailer on my YouTube recommended the other day. What are your thoughts on movies going back to the cinema after, I think it's 11 or 12 or 13 years? And the reason I bring this up is because Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2 are being shown in the cinema in America again. I think it's in the next few months or so. What are your thoughts on bringing back a movie from the past 12 years, or whenever the first one was released, back to the cinema? And how do you think it will do?
You can't do it with every movie. It can only be done with the ones that people care about. You know, Back to the Future, Deathly Hallows, maybe something like Infinity War or Endgame in X amount of years' time. It can only be big, well-known movies that they can do that with. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think anything that gets people out, one, socializing, but two, spending money, because spending money is good for the economy. I think it's good, but I also don't think it's too creative. You know, because if it turns out these movies start to do very well by just re-showing them, eventually these studios may start thinking, well, you know, if we stop making half of the movies that we currently do make and just put half of re-showings out, we can draw a pretty good profit. And I think that will always be I think there will always be a place in the cinema for re-showing of these movies, because there will always be, every 10 years, a new group of children who grow up and become from 10-year-olds to 20-year-olds, and they would have in that time have watched, you know, Deathly Hallows somewhere online, and they become Harry Potter fans. Even though Harry Potter came out years and years ago, every 10 years of new waves of children who are becoming adults will become fans of these old franchises, and they will eventually see this in cinema and do want to see it. So there'll always be a place for re-showings like this. I think even like I once saw The Godfather being listed in the UK as a re-showing in a cinema not too long ago, and that's an old movie, but it is a classic. So I do think there is a place for it. I don't think it's too much of a negative thing, as long as they don't do it too much.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a business decision, like, it has to make sense, right? Because sure, like, your costs for it are pretty much nothing. Like, unless you have to extend your rights to play it in the cinema for longer, it's not really going to cost you anything to do it, especially from the movie's perspective. Like, they're just saying it's almost, in a way, free money. They're saying, yeah, play it in your cinema, increase sales. You know, we've already produced the movie 12 years ago. It's not going to cost us anything extra to give it to you to play. Like, why not? Let's do it. I think just potentially don't overdo it. But again, at the same time, would you pay to go and watch it? I think you would only pay to go and watch it if you wanted to watch it in the cinema. If you just wanted to watch the film, it's available enough places for free. I think all the Harry Potter series and the Fantastic Beasts series is now on ITVX for free, so you can watch every one of them for free in the UK. You're paying for the experience, aren't you? America. Yeah, you're not paying to watch the film. Like, at that point, you're paying to watch it in a cinema. Like, you can watch the film anywhere for free at this point, or, you know, they do regular showings on Sky and things like every few months for the whole series, like on loop. So, like, yeah, I think if you care that much, people will go and see it, but it'll be interesting to see how well it does compared to a new movie, though. Like, if more people would be wanting to go and see that than, say, Blue Beetle, for example.
Yeah. True. Do you have any final thoughts on this topic, Tom? Because I think we're an hour into the podcast. It's our very first podcast. It's time to wrap everything up. So, final thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, I think I don't really care about it that much. It sounds kind of bad.
That's true.
I don't think the film. I mean, I think the trailer looks decent. If you like the trailer, go watch it, go give it a go, give us your thoughts on the film, let us know. But yeah, I don't think it's anything crazy. I don't think it's not like Avengers Endgame, right? Like, there's not that level of hype to it where people are desperate to go and see it before any spoilers and stuff come out. I think that's when you can tell there's a good movie, right? Like, if people won't use Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it because they're scared of spoilers from a film they're about to watch. If people saw a post about this film, are they going to really care? Really a bad thing to the film. It's just the fact that people just don't really know about it, or they're not that bothered. I mean, I haven't been to the cinema, so I don't know how many times this has been played as a trailer in the cinemas either. It could have been played loads of times, and people who have been to the cinema might see it and think, oh yeah, I'm going to go watch that straight after. I don't think it has a lot of hype around it, but it doesn't seem like a lot of DC films have a lot of hype about it. I mean, I wanted to watch Shazam 2. I didn't even know it was out, so I think that basically sums it up, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think the marketing is subpar with this. I think there wasn't a lot of word of mouth and not a lot of encouragement to get people talking about it. And I think the most talking points there was about it was just people questioning, is this going to make money? That's the most you'll see people talk about this movie. But again,
I don't think it'll do as well as they thought it's going to do.
Definitely not. But I do think they've made their projections, because they projected it to do quite badly. I think they purposely projected it to do quite badly on purpose. So then when it does slightly better than badly, then they can say, hey, look, it's done better. But it hasn't really. It's just they purposely gave low estimates to make it look like that. But yeah, I think we're going to wrap the podcast up there. So thank you guys for watching the very first episode. We'll aim to do these once a week. So if you have any feedback for us, join the Discord down in the description. You can come chat to us there, and you can talk to us about the podcast or trading or anything like that.
Like and subscribe. Let's go.
Drop a like and subscribe if you're still listening in an hour, 8 minutes and 12 seconds at least. That's what it says on my timer here. If you're still listening or watching. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.